Well, everyone, it is the end of an era. And this video, although it is a bit out of order for everything else that's going on in the shop, is the official listing of the Mark IV's Pro Mod turbo setup. Now, I'll get to why I'm changing things up in a little bit in this video. Right now, I still have more components that I need to remove from the car before I start cutting things off of it. We'll go over what all is for sale, why I'm doing this, so on and so forth, but let's go ahead and get it disassembled the rest of the way, and then we can cover all of that stuff. Well, with everything removed from the Mark IV, let's first talk about the parts that are for sale, and then we'll talk about why I'm doing this and what the plans are. So, I have pretty much an entire Pro Mod turbo setup for a Mark IV Supra as a direct drop-in. I have the tube nose structure that houses everything. We have carbon body panels. We have the radiator, intercooler tubing, an old throttle body bracket, 6-inch velocity stacked titanium intake that corresponds with the bumper. Over here on the hot side, we have the turbo, which is kind of an oddball turbo. It is a combination of Precision, Garrett, Tile, and I forget where the compressor wheel came from, but my friend Albert at ARM, he replaced the compressor wheel, and it's now a billet 11-blade compressor wheel, as you guys can see there. Really nice turbo. All the hot parts are all exotic materials. The header is an Inconel header. It is set up for twin Turbo Smart 50mm wastegates, which are right here. The downpipe is a 5-inch Inconel downpipe with recirculated wastegate provisions, and the recirculated wastegate dump tubes are Inconel as well. For the race setup, we have a 5-inch titanium fender exit exhaust, and we have these titanium atmospheric dump tubes, which the dump tube options, they swap in and out as needed. The wastegates stay in the same location, and the dump tubes swap in and out interchangeably and easily that way. The passenger fender right here, you can see is set up so the fender exit exhaust will come through it right there. The header has all of the EGT sensors still in it, as you guys can see there. And this, like I said, is pretty much a direct drop-in ProMod turbo setup for a Mark IV Supra. Over on the cold side here, we have a 6-inch intercooler featuring a Bell Intercooler's intercooler core, a backdoor end tank on the cold side here, Adele Wiggins connections on all of the joints here, and you can see the other Wiggins over on the inlet side there. We have a Turbo Smart power port blow-off valve attached to the hot side end tank right here, or the inlet end tank. We have a 3-inch hot side intercooler tube made out of titanium. We have a 4-inch cold side intercooler tube also made out of titanium and provisioned for an IAT sensor right there. The throttle body is a Wilson, I believe it's a 102 millimeter throttle body that is also set up for an Adele Wiggins connection right there. The radiator is a Bell Intercooler's radiator core with a Spall brushless fan on it. I am leaving the Spall brushless fan sensor right here. This is, I believe, a 165 to 185 degree sensor. And this radiator has kept the car cool, even being a narrower width. It hasn't caused any issues with the car overheating or anything like that. And this really is a ProMod turbo setup that you can drop into the car and go about your day perfectly happily and perfectly contently. The tube nose structure does a number of different things. It replaces the lower core support with a new lower core support, and it has provisions right here for the radiator, right here for the intercooler. Over here, it has provisions for the transmission cooler, which I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to include that with this or not. I can discuss that with any interested parties. If that's something they're interested in, then I'm not opposed to including the transmission cooler. But if that is not something that somebody is interested in, then I'll keep that and use it with the new setup. It has this tube structure going out around the front, and all of these tabs support the lower section of the bumper, so that way it doesn't get all floppy and everything else. Over on this side, we have the turbo mount itself. You can see gusseted and loops around. Everything fits in nicely. It has a little provision right here that I made so the downpipe and the fender exit will clear appropriately. And on the bottom side, it also has these two posts that stick down, so you can put a belly pan on the bottom of the car to keep track officials happy, and in the event that an engine would let go, it'll help to keep you safe as well. Now, at this point in time, I am not interested in splitting this setup up. Frankly, the way that everything packages and the way that everything goes together, it really needs to all go as one complete system and one complete setup. Otherwise, if I sell the turbo off, well, the whole rest of everything else, the exhaust components, the intercooler tubing, the dump tubes, so on and so forth, everything really hedges off of that turbo, all of these parts going together. And at this point in time, like I said, I'm not interested in splitting this up. Now, for this entire package, and like I said, this is, minus a little bit of cutting and a little bit of fitting, really just a drop-in ProMod turbo setup with some body panels, with a bunch of other fancy stuff, exotic materials used throughout. It truly is a one-of-a-kind turbo system. It's something that I put a lot of time into, a lot of heart and soul, and at this point in time, I'm ready for somebody else to take the reins with it, to actually put it through its paces and use it for what I intended to use it for when I was still all gung-ho about this. Now, everything here, right now, I'm asking $20,000 for this whole setup. And I know that sounds like a lot, but if you sit and look at what the materials costs are, especially for the exotic materials over here, and everything that's already done, the corresponding body panels, the turbo, everything else, well, that number starts to become much more realistic when you factor in what it takes and what you'd pay a fabricator to do something like this, if they would even want to work with all the titanium and the Inconel and things like that. These materials are not for the novice fabricator to work with, and I've spent my life learning how to work with these materials, building these parts, and now it's time for one of you guys to take the reins and to, like I said, put this setup through its paces and to see what it can really do. Now, how is this setup performed? And that's a good question. This setup on my Mark IV right there, now cut apart, this setup made 1,221 wheel horsepower at 38 to 39 pounds of boost. We were applying a 75 shot of nitrous to just to help the turbo spool up a little bit more quickly, as my Mark IV is a 3-liter, and that lower displacement, it makes it a little bit reliant on nitrous to make it function correctly. But that power is also factoring being transmitted through a Turbo 400, through a Ford 9-inch. So needless to say, this setup, I was really impressed with the efficiency of it, really impressed with the power that it made on not a whole lot of boost. And this setup could easily make 1,500 wheel, if not more, really turned up and really wicked up. That just isn't something that I'm interested in doing at this point in time. So obviously I've excluded a lot of the intimate details of this system. I figured this would just be a good time to do a quick once-over on it, to show what all is for sale. And if any of you are interested, I am more than happy to go over all of those intimate details and what you need to look out for with the system, what it requires, so on and so forth, specifics about the parts, and whatever other questions you may have. If you're interested in this setup, please feel free to email me at alex@bpautosports.net. It's somewhere on the screen right now, and it will also be in the pinned comment below. So, like I said, it will be unfortunate to see this setup go. There's a lot of hard work and a lot of time put into it, but at this point in my life, it just is not something that I'm interested in pursuing any longer, and now it's one of your guys' turns to make the most out of this setup. So now let's address the elephant in the room. Why the hell did I cut this car apart again? What are the plans for it? And what am I going to do with it? Well, I've sat and I've thought about this. And to be completely transparent, there was a period of time around World Cup finals last year, and even a little bit after that, the end of 2024, when I was re-inspired and reinvigorated to go and race this car again with this setup here to see what it can do and to get it out there and really get after it. And that time elapsed. That time window closed up, and my logical brain started to take back over again. And I've realized that the ProMod Turbo setup and everything that the car was built into is not what I want the car to be at this point in time. Now, 10 years ago, this setup, or the setup that was on the car, it's now on the ground, would have been an absolute dream. It would have been all that I wanted to do. But as life has progressed, as times have changed, and my priorities have shifted, that is no longer the case. And what I really want this car to be, more than anything at this point in time, is a nice street car that I can drive and enjoy and share with family and friends and loved ones and things like that. And the way that it has been set up is just not conducive to using it for those means. So what the plan is moving forward is to convert it back to a street car. Obviously, I've done some of that work on the front end, or at least the deconstruction portion of it. And what I'll do is reinstall the factory lower core support in the section that was cut off. I decided to keep that, thankfully, when we did the tube nose setup and cut the car apart, just in the off chance that I would ever decide to change my mind and want to put it back to a street car. And it's came full circle. That time is now. Out of everything that is still on the car at this point in time, what's going to stay, what's going to go, and those are good questions. The engine is going to stay as it is, as well as the transmission. I'm going to keep the rear end, although that will likely get swapped from a spool to a limited slip differential. The electronics package, the Haltech Nexus R5 that is now powering the car, is going to stay there. And the intake manifold in the cold side over here is going to stay as well. Beyond that, I need to build a new turbo header for it. I need to get a new turbo for the car. I need to build a new radiator, build a new intercooler, and one of the actually the biggest deconstruction portion that still needs to be accomplished is the 25.5 cage is going to be cut out of this car. Now we can't see it right here, but if you guys have been around, or feel free to scroll back to some earlier Mark IV videos, it has a pretty elaborate and pretty interesting roll cage in it. That cage is perfect for somebody that wants to race one of these, but not perfect for street duty. So that needs to go away, and I'll more than likely go back to a simple 10-point cage, this time with door bar swing outs, so my mother can go for a ride with me if she wants to. Now, when I decided to do this, I was weighing 4 different options of what to do with the car. And 3 of them are bad, and 1 of them is good in my opinion. So option number 1 was to force myself to take it to the track to go and race it and all of that. And that sounds like a reasonable thing to do, but the more that I thought about it, if I'm not 100% bought in on taking this thing and piloting it down the track at 180, 190 miles an hour or more, well, that's a recipe for disaster. And that's a recipe for me to get hurt and for me to get myself into big trouble that I'm not really interested in. So that one kind of crossed off of the list pretty quickly that way. Option number 2 was to try to sell or trade the car for another Mark IV to build a street car out of. And that sounds, again, like a perfectly logical option. However, at the end of the day, I would not be happy doing that. Now, this car has been around and been in my life for going on 20 years at this point in time. And through that time, I have a ton of memories and it has a massive sentimental value to me. Enough so that if I were to get any other Mark IV or just replace it with another one, yes, I would still have a Supra, but it would not be my Supra. And that would be a regret that I would carry with me for the rest of my life. So that eliminated that possibility. Now, option number 3 is probably the worst out of the bunch, and that is to continue kicking the can down the road, trying to convince myself that I wanted to go racing again when I really do not, at least not at this level. And that would eventually, that would end up as the car just sitting on the lift, rotting away while I continue to kick that can down the road, and the car gets no use out of it. So really, really bad option, and the one that I am the least interested in. And that takes us to option number 4, which is the one that we are pursuing. And that is to cut the car back apart, to build it into what I want at this point in time and the type of car that I'm interested in, and to be able to enjoy it and to use my beloved Mark IV Supra and drive it back on the road again in some reasonable bit of comfort, and to turn the car back to a street car where it can be used and enjoyed and all of that. So, like I said, that is the route that we are pursuing, and that is, although not the priority right now, as the Aristo is still the #1 project at this point in time. But once that car goes away, either for wiring or for paint, well, in the interim, while it is gone, I think we'll go ahead and shift focus to the Mark IV and start making some headway on the new fabrication work and converting it back to a street car and what the car will become. So hopefully that makes sense, and I wanted to jump this video in line, and that's why things are going to be a little bit screwy this week going into next week. That's why the hood on the Arista is closed and everything right now, as there is stuff on that car that will be out of order if I were to show it at this point in time. So we're going to keep that a secret until next week when we get started back on the Arista again. But with this being Black Friday week and me not having any manifolds to sell you guys this year, well, I figured I would do one better and offer my beloved ProMod Turbo setup. So for the Black Friday sale this period of time, the turbo system will be listed for $20,000, like I said. I think the actual value of it is a little bit higher than that. And like I said, for the amount of parts and everything that comes with this whole system, I think it's a very good value. Now, at this point, I'm not really interested in shipping all of this, as there are some massive components here between bumper, fenders, the tube nose section, everything here. So this will be a thing that probably will need to be picked up, or you can arrange your own shipping for it. I may change my mind on that in the future and offer shipping with it, but for right now, let's go ahead and say that this will be a pickup thing. So if one of you guys decides to come and pick it up, you're welcome to check out the rest of the shop as well to see all the other projects, to see the Mark IV in its torn apart state, and so on and so forth. So again, if any of you guys are interested in it, feel free to contact me at alex@bpautosports.net. We can discuss specifics, discuss whatever you want to about the system, and we can proceed from there. But with all of that being said, and I know this is probably a big surprise for a lot of you, trust me, it'll be worth it in the end, and the car will be much better, and we'll see much more of it as time goes on. But with all of that being said, I think this will be about the end of this one. So I know that I'll probably have some questions to answer about this, and probably have some people that disagree with what I'm doing, but at the end of the day, I need to do what's best for me and what's best for my enjoyment of the car. And this decision was not made in haste, trust me on that. And ultimately, I think it is the best decision for this car to actually live a useful life, as opposed to being a lift ornament as it has been. But with that being said, I think that'll be about the end of this one. So thank you guys, as always, for coming along on all of these different journeys and all of these different adventures with me. We'll be entering into the next phase of the Mark IV, like I said, fairly shortly, or reasonably short order, I should say, as I'm making really good progress on the Aristo, and this thing hopefully should be able to go for paint or wiring in the not too distant future. We have the engine on the horizon for it. We have a bunch of more interesting welding and fab work to do on it, and I can't wait to get this thing done, A, to use it, but B, to be able to get started on the Mark IV again. Hopefully you guys are excited for that. I know that I certainly am, and there's a lot of work to do on all these cars, but that's what I get my enjoyment out of, and I thank you all very much for coming back here week after week to see what's going on here and see the big surprise with this thing. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you guys very much, and I look forward to seeing you week after week, like I said. But with all of that being said, that'll be about the end of this one. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and check out the website for manifolds and for merch and all things good that way, including my new retro collection. Right now I'm not wearing any retro collection apparel, as it's been kind of a dirty day here, cleaning the car up, or cleaning all these parts up, cutting everything apart and all of that. But that aside, if you're interested in 4 different unique, interesting retro colorways and retro logos for BPA, available on t-shirts, hoodies, flannels, hats, so on and so forth, feel free to check out the retro collection link in the description below to see what all I have for yourself. If there's anything there that interests you, by all means feel free to scoop it up and add it to your wardrobe. And if nothing there does interest you, and nothing there is something that you would like to add to your collection, that's okay as well. Hopefully I offer something in the future that does speak to you and that you would like to add to your collection. But with all that being said, and a massive elephant in the room addressed, and a big surprise, that'll be the end of this one. And I will see you guys in the next episode.